Welcome to Celebration Key. If you're on a Carnival or a Princess ship in the Caribbean, there's a good chance that you're going to make a stop in their private island. And this is actually video I took of our recent stop in Celebration Key. It's so new that it wasn't in any of our books, so it's going to be my pleasure to show you around so you've got everything you need to have a great day. Hi, we're the Cruise Port Captain Crew, exploring the world one port at a time. After more than 20 years of cruising, we've learned the best port days are usually the ones we planned ourselves. Doing it on your own lets you explore deeper, save money, and truly make the most of every stop. Join us for port guides, travel tips, and cruise know how to help you make every port day count. Check the video description for links to our favorite resources and tools that help us cruise smarter, and maybe they'll inspire your next adventure. Now, on to the video. Unlike many private islands of the other cruise lines we've been a part of, Celebration Key is not actually an island. It is on Grand Bahama, the whole island that is a part of the Bahamas. So the whole island is 96 miles long. So I've got the kilometers there for you if that's what you prefer. And you can see where the ship is. That is what is the private property of Carnival and Princess. That is where you're going to be for that great day. And for us, our day there started at 7 a.m. and it ended at 3:30. So it was a good amount of time to be there. We would have liked to have been there a little longer, but all in all, for a private island day, it was pretty great. When you're there, there's a good chance you're not going to be the only ship enjoying Celebration Key. So we were on the Carnival Venezia, which is the ship on the left, and then the Carnival Celebration joined us about an hour later. It looks like they are expanding and they are getting ready to have even more ships there on the same day. But even with the two ships being there, it didn't feel overcrowded. We still had plenty of places to get a beach chair, and I'll tell you all about that in a minute. But you're just going to walk off the ship. There's no tendering at this one. In some private islands, you do have to tender, but not here. Money, you're going to want to have your ship card with you, and you might want to have some credit cards with you if you decide to purchase something. There are shore excursions because you are on Grand Bahama. The cruise line, I actually brought it with me. Like you can see, this is a crazy thick shore excursion brochure, but they offered 23 excursions just for Celebration Key. So if you want to be a little more adventurous than just having a pool day, you can do that. The food options, I'm going to explain that later. So you want to be sure and stay for that because it didn't work like the other private islands that we've been on. And for us on the Venezia, we were encouraged to bring our pool towels with us, and we could get rid of them when they got dirty. We could give them to them on the staff on the shore, or we could take them back to the ship. But that's kind of an approach up there. Make sure you have your towels with you. Once you make it about a quarter of a mile from the ship to the main property, you're going to run into the main area. This is a map of the entire area. There are several maps, and what the next little clip is going to be, it'll give you a sense of when you first walk off the ship and you go through the big sunshine archway that you'll see, kind of get the feeling of it. And this was, I would say, probably around 10 o'clock. So some people had already been out there having a good time. We tend to wait a little bit later in the day. I'll give you a sense of the feeling of what it looks like when you're actually there. Just keep watching. The property is broken up basically in half into Starfish Lagoon, Calypso Lagoon. Then there's a separate area called Pearl Cove, and I will explain all three of those. I'm not going to explain what Lacona Cove is because that is after you, if you saw the big slide or the big kind of like sandcastle through the first video or the video you just saw, when you walk through there, Lacona Cove is basically just a short little shopping area there. So we didn't take any pictures there. Surprisingly, I thought I had, but it doesn't seem like I did. So let's go through the other three areas because that's where you're going to spend most of your day. So Starfish Beach is the separation is basically they make it so it's color coded so you know what area you're in. This is the money shot. There is one on the Calypso side as well, but you get right into the center of that circle, and then you've got the ships behind you. If it's a pleasant day, this is near the end of the day. That's why the first mate's got his towel around his head. It was getting quite windy and they had closed off that beach. But if you want a true beach experience, you can go right to the beach, just follow that little area. And they do a real good job about you know which side you're on, and that is important. In a minute I'll tell you why. The reason that they're split up is because basically the Starfish Lagoon side is for families. The other side is really geared more towards adults. So when you see the green and the blues, that means that you are on the Starfish side. It doesn't mean that you can't drink. There is plenty of bars wherever you are. But it does mean that that area is kind of, I don't know if safer is the right word, but it is more geared towards smaller children. So if you're in that area, and we stayed in that side, it really wasn't a big deal for us, but that is really the big difference between the two areas. And then it changes for Calypso Lagoon. Again, again, the whole property just basically split in half. It's the Calypso Lagoon side is in the oranges and the reds. That's how you know you're on that side of the Celebration Key. Because there is an age restriction there. So that's kind of the big thing. The services are the same on both sides, but Calypso Key or Calypso Lagoon, as you see the sign there, and there's multiple signs everywhere that is really for 13 and up. So your teenagers and up. Kind of the best way I can think of it is that Starfish Lagoon was very much families, kind of very Disney oriented feeling like when I used to work there. Calypso Lagoon seemed more like spring break, if you're familiar with that in America, or Ibiza, if you are familiar with that, our European audience. And that was really the big difference. It's just that kind of there seemed to be a little more partying going on in the Calypso. But for the amenities themselves, they mirror each other. So we did walk both sides all the way. So there's cabanas for rent on both sides of various sizes. Both sides have zero entry pools, which are very nice. So you can, just gently walk in. They both had swim up bars. So even though the age restriction is on the Calypso side, you could get a drink anywhere. And they both had beach access. So you saw the Starfish Beach on one side. The Calypso Beach also had a separate area. They have restroom facilities that were very handy, very clean. Everything is done very well. So it doesn't really matter. It just kind of really matters like what age do you want to be with, and kind of are you looking for more of a partying. They were at one point in this pool doing the electric slide. I think it was, no, they were doing a conga line. So that's just kind of the difference is what kind of experience you want. But both sides were fine. Both sides were beautiful. I'll touch on Pearl Cove for just a second, that this was an adult only beach, but it did require you to purchase your day there at the time of this filming. And I just checked that guide that it was $209 a person. And that was just for access to the area. That wasn't to a certain cabana that I know of. So, if that's what you want, it looked very busy and it looked lovely, but that'll give you an idea of what that area, that there is some cost involved with that one. Let's talk food. If this is something that worked different than I think any other private island that we've been to. So typically on other ships, what had happened is that the crew would actually come off the ship and they would like make a massive barbecue and it last, for about 3 or 4 hours. And then they would take the food away and everything would shut down and we go back on ship. This is different. This is actually, they have venues, and how it works is you are allowed one meal per person that they're going to ask you for your cabin number. And then if you want an additional meal throughout the day, then you have to pay for it. And this is why it was confusing, is because one, nobody told us about this. I had to ask. And two, they have prices everywhere. So that made it confusing as well. But let's solve the confusion for you so you are ready and you know what to expect. So what's going to happen is you're going to look at the different venues that they have offer, and you're going to see on the bottom right there, it says redeem here. So when you see that sign, that says that you can use your one meal there. On the left side, what you see is this was in front of a food truck, but each of the venues where you can redeem your one meal there, they're going to have the one side that says what the island eats include. So that's your one meal. And then they'll have a second side that'll tell you what's available for purchase. Most places, almost everywhere, I think they mirrored each other, so you could get one free, and then if you wanted to purchase one later, you could. They have food trucks there. So you see the first mate in the upper right corner. He is standing in front of the food trucks that look like that's interesting things, like this is from a food truck menu. If you don't want to do the food truck route, which again, if I had known, I would have probably went to a food truck first, but I didn't know what I was doing. So they have these food halls, and they are on both sides. So whether you're in Starfish or you're in Calypso, you're fine. They're basically food courts, and you can see there's 4 different things. That's where we ended up eating. There was something similar to a Chipotle's, something similar to Mediterranean version of Chipotle's, hamburgers, chicken, the usual stuff. So you went, got what you wanted, and then you checked out by just telling them your room number. And you see below me, that's what the signs look like. And that's where I got confused, because most places when you go on a private island, there are no prices. But you can see on the island eats, it tells you what you can have. And then on the other side, it gives you a quick, if you're going to go for round 2, what that's like. They also had full service restaurants on both sides, and how it worked there for their island eats, if that's what you wanted to do versus getting something quick, is that they gave you a 40% discount on one entree. I think these were different experiences. So this one was barbecue, and I think the other one was more like a seafood shack. But don't hold me on that. But I think that's what it was. Want to mention just a couple of things before we wrap this up. So something that we didn't think was so great is that it was really expensive to rent a cabana. We've been on other cruises where we have rented a cabana and it wasn't just so crazy. Even to rent a small bed where you weren't even kind of secluded was quite pricey. You can see the signs there. So when we got the registration for Carnival, they start sending you the stuff to buy ahead of time. So I took a screenshot of that, and that's already pricey. And these are just the laid back chairs. There's nothing special going on there. The cabanas themselves was $700 and up. There was one that was $3,000. I think that was the one at Pearl Cove. So I didn't think that was cool. It might be great if you have a bigger party, but I really would read the fine print and be sure what's included in those 6 hours. The other thing that's kind of a bummer is they really rented crazy stuff. Like renting snorkeling gear, maybe that I can understand, but renting water noodles and floats, I thought that was kind of a lot unnecessary nickel and diming. So if you want a noodle and you don't want to pay for it, I don't know, you might be able to bring it from home. Lots of people, I think, brought floats from home, ones that you could deflate and stick into your suitcase very small. But just be aware there's a lot of nickel and diming going on there. And this surprised us because, of course, we thought, like, hey, this is going to be a private island. Since it's not a private island, you can leave the area by yourself. There's security there. They have taxi rates if you want to explore Grand Bahama on your own. You can also rent a car, and they have the kiosks set up right as soon as you walk off the ship and you kind of get into the main area. There is a service area there. So if you don't want to do a beach day and you'd rather explore the Grand Bahama, you can do that too. Well, we hope you enjoy your day at Celebration Key, and it gives you some information that we didn't have, that we couldn't find anywhere else. So you know how the beaches work, you know how the food works, and you are set up for success to have a fun time there. If this video was helpful to you, you please do us a huge favor and like it. And if you are new to the Cruise Port Captain crew, we hope that you subscribe and join us for more fun. In small YouTube creator land, all your subscriptions and all your likes just mean the world to us. If you've been to Celebration Key and you have any other things to offer, please write it below, or you have other questions, we are happy to help. Until then, I'll see you in the next video, and make life a bon voyage.